It started about 3 weeks ago, on a Thursday evening. I remember because it was one of the first real downpours of the season, relentless rain pounding against my windows, wind howling through the neighborhood like it was angry. My dog, Max, a black lab mix, still needed his nightly walk, rain or no rain. So I grabbed my umbrella, clipped on his leash, and stepped out into the storm. We live in a quiet suburb outside Pittsburgh. The streets are lined with tall oaks, older houses, and those old-school round storm drains at the corners, grates big enough to drop a basketball through. That night, the rainwater was gushing into them like mini waterfalls. I didn't think anything of it at first. We were halfway through our loop, soaked but moving fast. That's when I heard it, the whisper. At first, I thought it was wind slicing between the houses. But then it happened again. Right as we passed a flooded drain at the intersection of Rosewood and 14th, I heard something faint. It wasn't random noise. It was my name. Tyler. I stopped, thinking maybe someone was calling from across the street, but the road was empty. Max stopped too and let out a low growl, staring directly at the drain. Then I heard it again. Tyler. Not loud. Not echoing. Just, wet. Close. Like someone was pressed up against a phone speaker whispering directly into my ear. I'll be honest, I got chills. But I laughed it off, pulled Max along, and kept walking. I told myself it was the wind, maybe some old pipe under the road, or hell, maybe I was just tired. Max, though. He kept looking back at the drain like something was watching us. That night, I didn't sleep well. I kept dreaming about water. Dark water, endless water, and whispers coming from beneath the surface. The next night, it rained again. Not as heavy, but steady enough that everything was soaked. Same routine, walk Max, take the usual route, try not to slip on the wet pavement. But when we passed that same drain, something was off. It wasn't the whisper this time. It was the smell. You know that smell when a pipe backs up? That mix of rot and rust and something worse. It hit me as we passed the drain, so strong it made me gag. Max immediately started barking and pulled away from it, almost yanking the leash out of my hand. And then I saw it. A hand. Just for a split second, slipping back beneath the grate. Pale, slick, long-fingered. Gone before I could blink. I stared down at the drain, the water rushing past like nothing happened. I didn't stick around to investigate. We bolted home, Max dragging me half the way. I convinced myself I imagined it. I mean, I had to. I told myself maybe it was a rat or some trash swirling in the water. That maybe the combination of the smell, the rain, and the whisper the night before was just screwing with my head. But the dreams kept coming. Every night, I'd see a tunnel of black water. I'd feel myself being pulled down, deeper and deeper, and I'd wake up with the sound of whispering in my ears, my name, over and over again. The third night, I skipped the walk. Max whined for a while, then settled by the door. I just couldn't do it. But when I finally went outside the next morning, that same storm drain. It wasn't on the corner anymore. I'm not joking. The city layout hadn't changed. The sidewalk, the trees, everything else was where it should have been. But the drain, the exact same one with the rusted bars and the little scratch on the left side, I swear to God it had moved 2 houses up. I even checked Google Street View later. The drain had always been on the corner. But now, it wasn't. I told myself I was losing it. Maybe I just hadn't paid attention. Maybe they added a second one. But even typing that now sounds stupid. Then the whisper came back. In broad daylight this time. Tyler. That low, slithery voice again. It sounded tired. Hungry. And worse. It sounded closer. I didn't walk Max for the next 3 days. I drove him to the park instead. No sidewalks, no drains. But even then, I started seeing them in new places. A drain in the middle of a field. One at the park's edge where there hadn't been one before. Every time I saw one, I'd hear the whisper, just under the sound of the wind or water. It got to the point where I started staying inside altogether. I called the city once, just to ask if they were doing new plumbing or storm drain maintenance. The woman on the phone sounded confused. There haven't been any changes in your area for years, she said. All city infrastructure's been the same since 2009. I asked about the drain specifically. She got quiet for a second and said, "You're not the first one to ask." That stopped me cold. When I pressed her, she just said she wasn't supposed to discuss complaints or calls from other residents. Then she hung up. 2 nights ago, it rained again. Harder than before. Max stood at the door whining for a walk. I caved. We took a different route. Main Street instead of Rosewood. More lights, more traffic, fewer trees. I figured it would be safer. We were halfway down the block when Max stopped. Stiff as a statue. Ears perked up, tail straight. There, 10 feet in front of us, was a drain. One that wasn't there last week. The road was old, cracked, definitely hadn't been paved in a long time. The drain looked ancient, too. Not a modern grate. This one was made of crisscrossing metal bars, thick and rusted. There were symbols carved into the concrete around it. Ones I didn't recognize. Circles with slashes, loops inside triangles. And from the black hole beneath it, a hand rose up. Not human. It had fingers, but they were wrong. Too long. The joints bent backwards. The nails looked like they had grown for decades, dark, broken, curling in on themselves. And then a face. Not fully out, but enough for me to see it in the streetlight. White eyes. No lids. Just orbs. And a slit where the mouth should be. When it opened, it split vertically like a wound. Tyler. I ran. Didn't think. Just scooped Max up and ran the hell home. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat with Max in the hallway, every light in the house on, and just waited. Around 2 a.m., the water pipes in the house started groaning. Not like normal creaks. Like pressure building. Like something was moving through them. I swear on my life. I heard whispering from the sink drain. From the shower. From the toilet. They were all saying the same thing. Let me in. Last night. Max disappeared. I let him out back to pee around midnight. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. I called for him, no bark, no sound. I found the back gate wide open. And in the middle of the yard, was a drain. No street. No sidewalk. Just a storm drain embedded in the dirt, surrounded by wet mud. I fell to my knees and screamed. I could hear him barking, faintly. From inside the drain. Then came the whisper. Tyler. I called the cops. They showed up, saw the drain, looked confused, asked if I had done some landscaping. They looked inside with a flashlight. Nothing. No dog. No tunnel. No water. Just blackness. They said they'd file a report and told me to get some sleep. One officer muttered that I wasn't the first guy on this street to lose a dog lately. I tried to ask what he meant, but he was already walking back to the cruiser. I was 22 at the time, living in Washington State. Back then, I worked night shifts at a 24-hour gas station off Highway 2, right outside a small town called Index. It was the kind of place with more trees than people and more stories than explanations. One night, During a heavy downpour, my manager asked if I could cover a double. The morning guy called out sick. I was broke, so I said yes. Worst decision of my life. Around 3 a.m., things got quiet. The rain was hammering the pavement, and thunder rolled every few minutes. I was leaning against the counter half asleep when a customer came in, soaked, shivering, maybe mid-30s. He didn't buy anything, just asked if I had a phone. I pointed to the one by the door. He nodded but didn't use it. Just stood there for a few seconds, staring out the window like he'd seen a ghost. Then he said, "You ever hear her?" I thought he was drunk. "Who?" "The girl under the bridge," he said. "She cries when it rains." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. But he looked dead serious. Then he just left. No call, no soda, no nothing. There's an old bridge a few miles from the station, narrow, one lane, barely wide enough for 2 cars to pass. Locals always said it was haunted, but I never paid much attention. But that guy's face, it stuck with me. The way he said it, like he was warning me. By 5 a.m., I couldn't stop thinking about it. I clocked out around 6 o'clock, grabbed a Red Bull, and instead of going home, I drove to that bridge. It was still raining, not as hard, but steady. Fog hung low over the road. As I got closer, I slowed down. Something felt wrong. My headlights lit up the wooden planks of the bridge, and someone standing at the edge. I hit the brakes. It was a girl. Maybe 16. Pale. Hair hanging in wet strands across her face. No jacket, no shoes. Just a white dress clinging to her skin from the rain. She wasn't moving, just staring down at the river. I rolled down my window. "Hey. You okay?" "Nothing." I pulled over just past the bridge, grabbed my phone, and ran back. "Hey. Do you need help?" I shouted. Still nothing. I got closer and reached out to touch her shoulder. And she vanished. No scream. No splash. Just, gone. I stood there frozen, soaked, and heart pounding. I thought maybe I'd imagined it, but the spot where she stood had a perfect set of wet footprints. They ended at the edge of the bridge. No drag marks. No turnaround. Just, there, then not. I called the police. They came, took my statement, and said they'd check the river, but they didn't seem surprised. One of the deputies even said, "You're not the first to see her." I didn't sleep that day. That night, I asked my coworker, Carl, about the bridge. He was in his 50s and had lived in Index his whole life. He got quiet when I brought it up. "You saw her too?" he asked. I nodded. Carl leaned in and said, "Her name was Rachel. Died in '93. Her car went off that bridge during a flood. They say she's still looking for a way out." I laughed, trying to shake it off. "You're messing with me." He didn't smile. "Don't go back there. Especially not during a storm." Of course, I didn't listen. I don't know why. Curiosity. Stupidity. A few nights later, another rainy shift. Around 3:30 a.m., I started hearing this sound. Like crying. But faint, almost like it was coming through the walls. At first, I thought it was just the wind. But it got louder. More distinct. It sounded like a girl. I stepped outside. The crying stopped. The rain had picked up again, heavier now. I walked around the building. No one. As soon as I went back inside, the crying started again. Now it sounded like it was coming from the storage room. I grabbed the flashlight and headed back. Opened the door slowly. Nothing. Just shelves of snacks and cleaning supplies. Then I saw it. A puddle. in the middle of the concrete floor. It hadn't been there earlier. I shined the light around. No leak. No busted pipe. Just a small puddle. And then I noticed the footprints. Small. Bare. Leading from the puddle to the corner of the room. But no one was there. I noped out and called Carl. He didn't sound surprised. "She's following you," he said. "You made contact. She remembers you." I tried to stay away from the bridge after that. Changed my route home. Didn't talk about her. But it didn't matter. She started showing up. Always when it rained. In reflections. On my phone screen. In puddles. I'd see her behind me, just for a second, before she vanished. One night, I woke up to the sound of dripping. My window was open. Rain blowing in. I got up to close it, and saw her. Standing across the street. Looking up at me. I slammed the window shut and pulled the curtain. The next morning, muddy footprints led from my front door to my bed. I live alone. I moved out of Index a month later. Quit the job. Blocked everyone I knew from back there. But the last night I spent in that town still haunts me. It was a final graveyard shift. I was supposed to train the new guy. Rain was coming down in sheets. Around 2 a.m., the power flickered. Then went out. The emergency lights kicked in. Dim red glows that made everything look like a horror movie. That's when I saw her. Standing inside the store. No footsteps. No door chime. Just there. Soaked. Barefoot. Crying. I couldn't move. I don't know why. I just stood there and watched her walk past the candy aisle, into the back. Then silence. When I finally moved, I grabbed my phone and flashlight and went after her. Nothing. Just another puddle. But this time, there were words smeared into the water with a finger. "Help me." I didn't finish the shift. I drove until I couldn't keep my eyes open, crashed in my car, then kept driving the next morning. I haven't seen her in over a year. But every time it rains, I check the mirror. Just in case. This happened in late October of 2022, in a small town just outside of Pittsburgh. I was working as a rideshare driver at the time, Lyft and Uber, just to get by after dropping out of college. It was a rainy Friday night, and I was driving the late shift, between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m., because that's when you made the most money. College kids, bar runs, party houses. Most passengers were drunk, loud, or too busy staring at their phones to even notice me. But this one I'll never forget. It was around 1:30 a.m., pouring hard. Most people had called it a night. I was parked near a gas station when I got a pickup request about 3 miles away. The profile said the rider's name was Alyssa. When I pulled up, I didn't see anyone at first. The house was older, maybe from the 60s, with the porch light flickering. There weren't any streetlights nearby, just my headlights cutting through the rain. I was about to cancel the ride when I saw someone step out from the side of the house. It was a girl, maybe mid-20s, wearing a black hoodie with the hood up. She didn't say anything, just opened the back door and got in. "Hey, Alyssa?" I asked. She didn't answer. Just nodded slowly, barely looking up. Okay, kind of rude, but whatever. I hit "Start Ride" on the app and began driving to the drop-off point, an address about 15 minutes away on the outskirts of town. Weirdly close to a patch of old forest. For the first 5 minutes, it was completely silent. No music. Just the wipers thudding back and forth and the rain hammering the roof. Then I started feeling weird. You know when someone's staring at you? Like, you just know, even if you can't see them. I glanced at the rearview mirror, and yeah, she was staring. Not at her phone, not out the window, straight at me. Her face was pale, eyes wide. No emotion. Just watching. I tried to break the silence. Rough night? Nothing. She blinked, but didn't answer. You okay back there? Still nothing. The tension was thick. I turned the volume knob just a little, letting some soft music fill the silence. Then, suddenly, she spoke. You missed the turn. Her voice was low and raspy. I glanced at the app, it was still showing the route ahead. No turns missed. I don't think so. GPS says it's straight. She didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then she said, you need to take the next left. Now I started getting nervous. The next left was a gravel road leading into the woods. Not a real street. No lights. No houses. I cleared my throat. That's not on the map. Is there a different drop-off point? No answer. I looked back again, and she was gone. I slammed on the brakes. The back seat was empty. Completely empty. I whipped my head around, no one. The car hadn't stopped, and the door never opened. I would have heard it. There's no way she could have gotten out without me noticing. But she was gone. My skin went cold. The rain outside felt louder, almost like it was closing in. I sat there, frozen, trying to catch my breath. Then I looked at the app. The ride was still active. Still tracking the destination. And the map was now showing the route down that gravel road. I should have ended the ride and gotten the hell out of there. But something made me keep going. I turned onto the gravel road. The rain was lighter now, but fog had rolled in, thick, white, choking fog. My headlights barely cut through it. I drove for maybe 2 minutes before my phone vibrated. A text. From the Uber app. No message. Just one thing. Keep going. That's when I ended the ride and turned the car around. As I did, I saw her. Standing in the road. Same hoodie. Same pale face. But this time, she was barefoot. Just standing there, watching me. I didn't slow down. I swerved around her and sped back to the main road. My heart was in my throat the whole time. When I got home that night, I deleted the app. I haven't driven since. But that wasn't the end. 2 weeks later, I got an email from Uber support. It said something like, "Hi, we're following up on a ride you gave on October 21st. We received a report regarding unusual behavior and a missing passenger. Please respond." I checked the ride history. And there it was. The trip with Alyssa. Still logged. Still listed as, in progress. Only this time, the drop-off location was different. It had changed to my home address. I moved 3 months later. Didn't tell anyone where. But even now, sometimes during heavy rain, I'll get random calls or messages from unknown numbers. The last one was just a voice whispering, "You missed the turn."